Okay, so my camera shut off for a second, so at this point we've got the stencil in place. I've rubbed everything down in there to make sure that it's adhered to my board well, and it's time to take the clear tape off. So I'm going to grab a hold of a corner, and you're going to just pull it back flat. And you'll have to use both hands to kind of, I use my left hand to hold the white stencil down in place, and then my right hand to pull the clear taping off. So the easiest way to do this is to make sure that this clear tape is actually laid back down on your board, and you're just pulling it right off this way. So it shouldn't be a big, difficult project, but right there I went a little too fast, and you can see where a little tag of my letter started to pull up. So just go really slow to prevent that. But this is a good case where I can show you if this had torn or had stretched, which sometimes they do, I can go in there right now and fix it with an X-Acto knife or you know, like a little razor knife, and you can just go back in and try to fix that piece up the best you can. If it got really bad on you, I did send you with another stencil that you can try it again with. In worst case, you may just have to do a little bit of touch up at the end to fix that area if you have a problem area. But hopefully your stencils will all come out just fine without any issues. So once you have that clear tape off, you're going to again use your fingers, go through and make sure that it's laid down really well onto your board all the way around your lettering so that you don't get any of that bleed through when we go to paint. You're now ready to paint, and I'm going to use this medium-sized brush and my paint. I just want to put a little bit of paint on there. You're not going to get goopy wet paint. You want to keep it fairly on the thin side. So you're going to just start painting again with a dry brush right over top of your letters. And you want to kind of work fast. You want to make it thick enough to where you can't see through anywhere. Like, it needs to be thick enough to where it's a good coat on there, but you don't want it to be goopy wet spots anywhere. Otherwise, when you go to pull the stencil up, it'll turn into a big mess on you. So keep it thin on your paint coats. Just keep working until you have that entire name filled in. And then again, once you have it all filled in, just take a peek at it. Sometimes it helps to even put it in the light where it's shining on it. See if you have any goopy wet spots. And if you do, just use your brush, knock them down. And that's going to help when you go to pull this stencil off. So it's pretty good. So now, I want this to dry somewhat, but not 100%. I want it to be about 95% dry before I peel this backing off. If I do it too soon, I can make a big mess if it's still too wet. But then if it dries completely, you run the risk of pulling some of that black paint up as well. So it's kind of a fine line on when to pull this stencil up. So if you want to just fan it, again, do not hair dry it at this step. You're just going to fan it with an extra paper plate or whatever you have, or just let it sit a couple minutes. It really doesn't take it long. And what I like to do, if you're working with some friends, have one of your friends hold your board while you stand up and pull your stencil off. So you lessen your risk of messing your freshly painted stencil up. So normally I would let this dry just a hair longer, but for you to see it, I'm going to go ahead and pretend like someone else is here holding my board down, but I'm going to go ahead and pick up a corner of my stencil, and I want to grab a pretty good hold of it, and I'm going to hold my board down as I pull straight up, and you're going to see your stencil's going to start to rip and tear, and that is perfectly okay. You're going to just keep pulling it steadily straight up. When it rips, just keep on going. And again, you're just trying to go straight up with it so you don't touch your board while it's still wet paint on there. Go back in, grab another hold. And then sometimes it's easier to use your orange tool at this point. So I still have the insides of my F and a few other little pieces in here. So what I'm going to do is use my orange tool, and I'm going to go right over top of that little section that's still there and just kind of pick it out. I use my orange tool just enough to where I can get a hold of it with my fingers. And then peel it straight up. Depending on the name that you used, some of them are a little trickier than others, getting all these little pieces out. But take your time. And there I have all of the pieces off of my board, and it's pretty much complete at this point. So I'm going to let that dry 100%. At this point I can hit it with the hair dryer. If you had any bleed off or any little areas that you need to touch up, which I have a couple of little spots there from where I used my pick that I need to go back in and do some touch-up work. But I want to let this dry 100% before I go back in and do any of my touch-up. But at this point, your board is complete. Thanks so much for watching.